The silent epidemic, why you feel lonely, even when surrounded by people. Hello, Mind Explorers. Welcome to our channel. Today we're doing something different. We're embarking on a journey together, a descent through 5 levels of understanding about a feeling you probably know all too well. We'll talk about that strange paradox, the loneliness of always being surrounded. That feeling of being at a party, in a bustling office, or having a million social media followers and still feeling a deep void, a total disconnect. And believe me, this journey is worth taking deeply, because it's not just simple sadness. It's one of the most common and least understood experiences of our time, an undercurrent silently affecting millions of lives. I promise you this, by the end of this video, you won't just understand why you feel this way, but you'll see your relationships, your loneliness, and the digital world with completely new clarity. Let's start at level 1, the surface of the known. The first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the world of social media, an endless parade of perfect lives, dream vacations, and radiant smiles. The simplest explanation is that we fall into the comparison trap. We're constantly contrasting our chaotic real behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. And in that comparison, we almost always come out feeling like we're losing. Another aspect we all recognize is big city life. Millions of people around us, a sea of faces on the subway, on the streets, and yet an overwhelming sense of anonymity. This directly shapes our daily behavior. We put on our headphones, avoid eye contact, create a small invisible bubble to navigate the crowd. We protect ourselves from overload, but we also isolate ourselves. Think about the last big family gathering or a wedding. You're physically present, but perhaps you spent more time looking at your phone screen than truly connecting with the person next to you. It's a universal example of our era. And here's a third basic fact we need to clarify. Being alone is not the same as feeling lonely. Being alone, which we call solitude, can be a wonderful and restorative choice. Feeling lonely is an involuntary sense of isolation, a distress. This feeling has a very deep evolutionary origin. As a species, we are tribal beings. Our survival for hundreds of thousands of years didn't depend on individual strength, but on group cohesion. Imagine our ancestors on the savannah for a second. Being excluded from the tribe, being left behind, wasn't just social displeasure. It was literally a death sentence. That primal fear of disconnection still beats in our brains. So what we see day to day, social media comparison, urban anonymity, the confusion between solitude and isolation, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what everyone sees. But if this is what we see on the surface, what secret engines are driving it underneath? Welcome to level 2, the hidden mechanisms. And here's the first big revelation. One of the biggest drivers of modern loneliness is the disappearance of what sociologists call third places. This is key. It's not just about your close friends. Third places are not your home, the first place, or your work, the second. They are cafes, parks, libraries, clubs, those community spaces where unplanned, genuine social interaction used to occur. Knowing this gives you a powerful tool. You can use this knowledge to seek opportunities. It means you can actively seek out or even create your own third places to foster connections that otherwise wouldn't exist. A concrete example would be someone who, feeling isolated, decides to organize a weekly board game night at a local cafe. They don't wait for the community to come to them. They build it, creating that vital space that had been lost. And on the flip side, understanding this allows you to detect a risk, the danger of living a hyper-optimized but socially sterile life where you only move between the solitude of your home and the functionality of your office, leaving no room for the serendipity of a human encounter. Think of the person working from home. Their only interactions are through scheduled video calls. They've gained efficiency, but have completely lost the spontaneous hallway conversations or coffee machine chats, which are the glue of relationships. There's a process operating here governed by an invisible rule of our psychology. It's known as Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory of positive emotions. The rule works like this. Negative emotions, like fear, narrow our focus for survival. But positive emotions, like joy or a feeling of connection, do the opposite. They broaden our minds, make us more creative and open, and help us build social resources for the future. Loneliness creates a vicious cycle that closes us off to the world. A simple example, if you feel lonely, you're more likely to interpret a neutral comment from a colleague as criticism, which makes you shut down further. If you feel connected and secure, you'd probably take it as a joke and strengthen the bond. Within loneliness, there's an internal structure we often ignore. There's emotional loneliness, which is the absence of an intimate and deep connection, like that with a partner or a best friend. And there's social loneliness, which is the lack of a sense of belonging to a group or community. This feeling is amplified by a cognitive bias, a thinking error known as the spotlight effect. This bias is like a factory error in our social brain. It makes us believe that people pay us far more attention than they actually do. We think there's a giant spotlight on our mistakes, our clumsiness, or our appearance, and that imaginary spotlight paralyzes us. To counteract it, there's a powerful strategy: practicing shared vulnerability. It's not about spilling your darkest secrets, but starting by sharing something small and authentic with someone you trust. This small opening often invites the other person to open up as well, breaking the ice of isolation. So the next time you feel that imaginary spotlight on you, proactively remember this: everyone is the main character in their own movie. They're far more concerned with themselves than with you. Use that idea to free your attention and focus it outward on others. Let's think about an ancient custom: storytelling around a bonfire. That wasn't just entertainment. It was the primary mechanism for forging bonds, transmitting values, and weaving the tribe's identity. It was a shared experience of meaning-making. The takeaway for today is painfully clear. We've exchanged the communal bonfire for the individual glow of our screens. We consume content alone instead of creating meaning together. The lesson is that we desperately need to find new modern bonfires. From all of this, we can extract a key real-life deduction, a fundamental principle of action. The general rule is this: human connection is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity as fundamental as food or water, and its quality is infinitely more important than its quantity. In practice, this means you should actively protect and prioritize time for deep connection. Put down your phone, make eye contact, ask questions, and truly listen. Being present is the greatest gift you can offer. Understanding these mechanisms empowers us. It allows us to stop blaming ourselves for feeling lonely and start consciously redesigning our habits and our environment to meet that fundamental need. But if you thought we had it all figured out, brace yourself, because here's where the story gets truly chaotic. We're at level 3, the chaos of reality, and the first major controversy is modern technology the cause of this loneliness epidemic, or is it just a symptom of much deeper societal issues? On one hand, you have those who argue that social media and smartphones are literally rewiring our brains to prefer superficial interaction and instant gratification. On the other hand, you have those who say technology is just a tool and that the real causes are economic pressure, extreme individualism, and the loss of traditional community structures. What's at stake in this debate is the solution. If technology is the problem, we need to change our relationship with our devices. But if the problem is the structure of our society, then we need much bigger systemic changes. Now, let's challenge a deeply ingrained popular belief: the idea that introverted people don't feel lonely or even enjoy isolation. This is a huge myth we need to debunk. Chosen solitude, alone time to recharge, is something introverts highly value. But unwanted loneliness is just as painful for an introvert as for an extrovert. The desire for deep, meaningful connection is universal. And the reason we love to believe this myth is because it gives us an excuse not to act. If we label someone as a lone wolf who likes being that way, we free ourselves from the responsibility of reaching out and seeing if they need help. This leads us to a central paradox of our time. The more digitally connected we are, the more we can filter and control our interactions. We avoid the discomfort, disagreement, and boredom of face-to-face conversations. We seek comfort and in the process kill authenticity. This poses an almost philosophical dilemma with no easy answer. Should we aspire to a perfectly curated, frictionless social life, or should we accept and embrace the messiness, unpredictability, and vulnerability of real human relationships? Let's momentarily adopt a critical viewpoint towards something our society often applauds: extreme productivity culture, sometimes called hustle culture. And here's an ethical objection: we glorify people who sacrifice their relationships, family time, and well-being for professional success. We call it dedication and passion. But isn't it a socially accepted form of self-aggression that destroys the very fabric of community? Another hot controversy is the treatment of loneliness. Should we view it as a medical condition, a disease that could be cured with a pill in the future? Or is it a crucial social signal telling us that something is deeply broken in the way we live? This debate has changed drastically over time. A century ago, loneliness was a topic for poets and philosophers. Today, studies from universities like Brigham Young tell us it's as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The conversation has shifted from the soul to the body, from poetry to public health. All of this connects to the deeper human condition. We are meaning-seeking animals. And often loneliness isn't just the absence of people, but the absence of a shared purpose. This leaves us with a fundamental, unresolved problem as a species. How do we build authentic, strong communities in a world that is increasingly global, individualistic, and where people constantly move? No one has the complete answer yet. As you can see, the reality of loneliness isn't a simple problem with a simple solution. It's an incredibly complex knot of technology, psychology, economics, and philosophy. You've survived the chaos. Now it's time to see the details that separate the curious from the true connoisseurs. Level 4, Expert Knowledge. Here, I'll present a concept you won't find in a quick search: neuroscientist John Cacioppo's evolutionary theory of loneliness. The technical detail is this: Cacioppo proposed that loneliness isn't a useless feeling, but rather functions as a biological aversion signal, just like physical pain, hunger, or thirst. It's an alarm system that evolved to compel us to seek social connection and thus ensure our survival. The best analogy to understand it is this: loneliness is the check engine light of your social life. The feeling itself isn't the problem. It's a warning signal that your social needs aren't being met and you need to stop and see what's going wrong. Let's talk about a key but often overlooked figure in this field: sociologist Robert S. Weiss. His contribution back in the 70s was heroic. Long before loneliness was a hot topic, he was the one who gave us the language to understand it, establishing the crucial distinction between emotional loneliness and social loneliness that we discussed earlier. He was the cartographer who drew the first maps of this internal territory. Now, a slightly rebellious theory, the idea that certain types of loneliness, especially during adolescence, aren't a system error, but a necessary feature. An evolutionary mechanism that pushes us to separate from our family to forge our own identity and create new alliances. This is a completely different and unconventional perspective. Perhaps the goal shouldn't be to eliminate loneliness at all costs. Perhaps we should learn to listen to it, to treat it not as an enemy to defeat, but as a compass that indicates what's truly missing in our lives. Here's a research finding that goes against common sense. Several studies have shown that what they call social surrogates, that is, forming unilateral emotional bonds with characters from books, series, or movies, can temporarily reduce feelings of loneliness. This clashes with our intuition because we tend to see it as a bit sad or childish. But the reality is that our brain doesn't always clearly distinguish between a real and a fictional relationship. The feeling of belonging can, to some extent, be simulated. And this niche detail connects several ideas. Remember how we talked about stories around the bonfire? Those characters from myths and legends were perhaps the first social surrogates, creating a shared emotional world. Our media consumption today is just a modern, individualized version of that same ancestral impulse. And here comes the aha moment. Our brain is so desperate to connect that it's willing to accept a fictional character as a temporary friend. This doesn't prove we're pathetic. It demonstrates how incredibly fundamental and non-negotiable our need for connection is. Reaching this level of detail gives us a much more authentic view of the problem. It shows us that loneliness isn't simply being sad, but a complex dance between our ancient biology and our modern world. From here, we enter uncharted territory. Do you dare to look towards the final frontier? Level 5, the final frontier: speculation and wonder. The first futuristic idea, the development of AI companions, digital entities, or social robots specifically designed to alleviate human loneliness. Imagine 100 years from now, could these AIs become so sophisticated that they satisfy our need for connection better than humans, who are imperfect and unpredictable? And if that happens, what value will human relationships hold? This is where science reaches its limit. We can measure the chemicals in a lonely person's brain, we can track their sleep patterns, but can science ever capture the purely subjective experience, the internal quality of what it feels like to be deeply lonely? And that's when philosophy takes over, asking, what defines a connection as real? If an AI can perfectly simulate empathy, shared memories, and unconditional support, is the connection it offers any less valid than a human one? The philosophical implication of this is dizzying. If connection can be simulated, it calls into question our very definition of what it means to be human and to live a meaningful life. Does authenticity matter if the resulting feeling is the same? This topic, which seems so personal, is intimately linked to the future of humanity. All our great global challenges, from climate change to political polarization, require an unprecedented level of cooperation in history. And mastering this could be the key. A species that feels fragmented, distrustful, and lonely is incapable of collaborating. Perhaps healing our loneliness epidemic isn't a secondary goal, but the indispensable prerequisite to solving everything else. And here's the final idea, the most provocative assertion of this journey. Perhaps loneliness isn't a problem to be solved, but a fundamental characteristic of consciousness itself. Perhaps the price we pay for being self-aware individuals is the existence of an unbridgeable chasm between our minds and the minds of others. We are, in essence, solitary universes. Our descent has ended. We've reached the bottom. Now take a second, Contemplate the full landscape we've covered. Remember the idea we started with, that very familiar image of being at a party, surrounded by people and music, but feeling completely invisible. Now prepare for the final contrast. Compare that simple, painful feeling with the idea that the same feeling could be a biological alarm signal inherited from our savanna ancestors, being distorted by our modern world, and which ultimately might be an inescapable condition of conscious existence. We've traveled from a common feeling to the frontiers of biology, sociology, and philosophy. Your understanding of loneliness has been transformed forever. Now I ask you personally, what idea from this entire journey impacted you the most? Was it the concept of third places, the check engine light analogy, or the speculation about the future? I want to sincerely thank you for your time, your attention, and your courage to explore such a profound topic. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Real knowledge is built in community, and this is our small digital third place. If this journey has brought you value, I invite you to subscribe so you don't miss our future descents into knowledge, and to share this video with someone you think might resonate with it. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and we'll see you in the next deep exploration. After all, are we alone together in this?